Oh, there we go. Well, Morgan, to say that it's an interesting Friday, it's a bit of an understatement, but we're here.
We're here. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. We might have just had some very strange technical issues. Do I know why? No. um, but hey, we're here and it's a happy Friday. I'm just like going through and seeing if this is actually working right now. So give us a second. I think it is. Hello, everybody. If you're here, you should be able to hear us. Drop a hi in chat if you're here. Hello. I'm coming to you from a very random cabin. If this is your first time to the B2B Power Hour, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. I do not normally live in the woods and have some like cottage core sort of backgrounds. It's just a fun little adventure we're on. Hello, folks. Thanks for joining.
This
And
makes me feel like I
Nick,
travel the world.
I know. But you do. I mean, you've done a lot of travel. Yeah, hi, you know? Uh, hey,
Hey,
everyone. Thanks
everyone.
for joining today.
So
So,
you teased me with a
oh,
really
okay.
great question of the day, but
I
you
don't know if
didn't
it's
tell me what
great.
it was.
I, you said to keep hold of it. I wasn't refusing to tell you. You're like, no, 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 no. Just wait until we're live. I don't know
Oh,
what you're talking
sure. The
about.
story changes when everybody's listening. Just kidding. It's like a marketing versus sales thing. No, just kidding.
Yeah. In the room, marketing sounds great. Out of the room, marketing's like, what is sales doing? Goodness, that's so funny.
I won't comment
So,
on sales part.
um, if this is your first time here, we like to warm up the comments. We want to hear from you. So we have a question of the day, just a fun little lighthearted thing. And today, I don't mean to be like over the top here, but what are you irrationally afraid of? And the reason I
I
bring
know
this up,
Morgan.
the reason I bring this up is because I'm deep in the woods in the Pacific Northwest this week, and there are spiders everywhere up here, and I am deeply irrationally afraid of them. I don't know, maybe I was a fly in a past life or something, but it's I can't explain why. You know. So I want to hear from you. What are you irrationally afraid of? Is it snakes,
Morgan.
spiders, whatever else?
So, which is more terrifying? The
Mm,
spiders around you
yeah.
or the ones that I sent you on TikTok?
Oh, the TikTok ones are ridiculous because they're like I never want to go to Australia for that reason. Like they look terrifying. Um,
Conversation is stop sending me spiders. It's like, did you at least watch it? No.
no, absolutely not. I ain't touching that. Uh, but yeah, drop it in chat. Is there something you're irrationally afraid of? We'd love to hear from Nick. Do you have something?
Mm, I would say I'm afraid of heights, but honestly, the strangest thing is I used to race downhill and do freestyle competitions on my
Mm.
bike. So I guess with a bike underneath me, I wasn't afraid of heights.
But like, you still get that vertigo when you're on
Oh
like
yeah, like when I
a
go on the ladder to
ledge.
fix something on the house, and you're like, "Why did I say I was going to do this?"
Yeah. Like, why did I agree to be here? That's really funny.
Shopping.
Uh, hey Denver, what's up? Good to see you. It's great to see some faces we know and some new names that we don't. So,
You know
uh,
what? I do have a
Kinder
fear.
Kinder says Australia is where the devil keeps his pets. I feel like that's very
It's
true.
very true. Actually, I do have one that I will share. One that I didn't realize until I started doing more training and coaching. One of my fears is to care more about someone's success than they do themselves. And I only say this, I won't go into the story that actually made this happen, but I watched someone self-sabotage enough where it almost ended their life.
Hmm.
And I had tried to work with their parents and try and help them get out of it, and it was horrible. It was tough.
Yeah.
So one of my irrational fears when we start coaching sometimes is like, am I going to care more about this than they do?
Mm,
But I guess it's at least rooted in something real.
totally. Well, yeah, it comes from a good place. Yeah, 100%. All right, Nick, let's dive in. Today, how social selling outsells the competition.
Yeah, this is such an interesting topic because before Like when I first started using social selling, honestly, it was a nice to have. It was an easy way to get in because nobody was doing it. And it was back in the days when LinkedIn was just an e-resume site and people were just getting jobs. And I forget who was saying it the other day, like it was so far back that CEOs, presidents, C-suite used to put their phone numbers and emails in their profiles. As soon as you connected to them, instant access.
Mhm.
But the world has changed. And I know it's funny, I don't know how many DMs I get every week when everybody points to millennials. And they're saying it's all the millennials' fault. They're changing everything.
Wah, 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 wah. Yeah.
But the reality is, Amazon, COVID changed our perceptions of how we want to buy. We want ease, we want simplicity, we want something we can trust that we know it manages our expectations of the entire process. But where does that fit in with social selling? Well, the reality is they don't want to talk to you. Millennials don't want to talk to you until the last moment when it comes to a buying process because they don't want to look silly. They want to have as much information as possible and they want to be confident in the decision they're about to make. And so, why social selling, I think, took off is it was the first time that we could be, we were not an, Morgan, you say this all the time, we're not an anonymous face. We have now earned trust and credibility with our content, with our questions, with our conversations at a scale that was never available to sales before. And with that, these buyers get little bits of information enough that they're not overwhelmed over time. So that when they're
Yeah.
ready, that business case, that idea is so solidified in their mind that you are the only choice. And you've heard me say this before. It's like buying a suit. I know what brand I trust to get my suit. I'm going to get it. The only time I'm going to actually reach out to them to do anything is when I need tailoring because I can't do that myself.
And I think the other thing that comes to mind as you were saying this is it's not really just a certain age group, like however you define millennials. The other thing that we've seen and that we continue to see is stakeholders of all ages are overwhelmed with the amount of information in the world. So, yes, macro shift 1, we had this age group come into leadership and buying positions in the last few years. But macro shift 2, I think, is maybe a result of the pandemic, but arguably it probably started in like 2019. We started to automate all of our outbound sales, especially in B2B. In B2C or direct to consumer markets, this happened a long time ago. And this is also part of the macro shift. I remember when I was a web designer and did social media consulting in the early like 2010s, that was just the start of like email automations. Like it was a big time to like have a follow up campaign on some e-commerce store, and so B2B sort of played catch up to that. But I remember we were talking with an SVP not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, I feel, and they were saying that they get hundreds of pitches in their inbox every week.
If not a
Hundreds,
day.
if not a day. And when you think about that, the problem isn't the message, right? Like you could have the best message of all time and it might break through the noise. But the problem is the noise, the competitive noise that we all are experiencing right now. And not just in sales, like this is the other I think we complicate this too much sometimes, Nick. It's not just about sales. It's about the number of Netflix shows that are released. It's the complete overwhelm of the news, right? It's all of this fire hose of information that is just directed at us at all times. And what we do in response, which is a very reasonable and rational thing, is tune it out. We just tune out the non-applicable. Around here, we like to call that the brick wall. People are just da, 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 construct the brick wall. So no matter how good the pitch is, no matter how great the messaging is, no matter how you're reaching them, people tune out the non-applicable or what they perceive to be non-applicable. And that's the brick wall.
You know what jumps into my head as a way of demonstrating this?
Yeah.
I've never this one just hit me.
Yeah.
So there's a celebrity in the crowd. You walk over to the celebrity and you're like, "Hey, I love what you do. Thanks."
Yeah.
It's not that they're not appreciative. It's just the amount of volume they're getting, it dulls the emotional connection to it. Or there's a big exec at a networking meeting and you want to go and say hi. You're fighting the crowd to get up there and you finally get there to go and say hi and they're like, "Hi."
Mhm.
Done. There's
Mhm.
because you didn't start with credibility. They didn't know who you were. How do you go and leapfrog into a conversation that means something to them? Well, if you've done your research, maybe you can hit on some of those, the race to commonality, and you have that shared interest, which is how you win from comments to DMs. Just saying,
Mhm.
and maybe you hit on some of those. You get them talking about something they're passionate about other than work. Because I'll tell you guys this: nobody's passionate about your solutions other than you and your team. This is why those conversations go nowhere, especially on social. But
And
think about that in, like, that context, right? And, like, how to have a
right.
great like, you talk about the coffee shop rules, or you talk about, like, meeting people. Go back to when we used to meet people in real life, in face to face, where it was instantaneous, and I think that's how we have to look at social, and that's why it's broken. It's because when cold calling and emailing started to lose its effectiveness, like you were saying, with the spam filters,
Mhm.
we defaulted to the next best option, or
And
the lesser of all evils.
And not just technical spam filters, right? Mental spam filters. There are technical spam filters, and those are our problem, right? But we were even chatting with an SDR the other day, Nick, and they're sending automated sequences on 8 different domains that are all validated at like 1,000 emails a week to reach their prospects and
No, a day.
a
It was
day. Excuse
1,000 a
me.
day. So they had 4 domains that they were running their sequencer on with throttling on outreach so that they didn't burn
Oh,
one domain. And they're like, "I don't know why I'm not getting the meetings." I was like, "Well, how many meetings have you booked?" "Well, I'm supposed to hit 40 and I just hit 4." I'm
right.
like, "Oh, it's October 20th. So, like, is that 40 for the month?" "Yes." So,
Yeah. This
Jess just
is.
said, with that pattern interruption, with that,
Mhm.
we're just defaulting to what's easy, and we're expecting sellers to do too much of the hard work, which then falls under the mental spam filter. "Hey, Morgan, I just saw." "Hey,
Mhm.
Morgan," or "I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is," like, there's these things that instantly done. It just kills. Oh, I would call it mood killer if you want, because
Yeah.
it really does.
It kills the mood. Well, and the thing that I think about to sort of turn the coin on your celebrity idea, or to turn the coin on
Yeah,
the expert
okay,
at
okay. Yeah,
the
yeah.
networking event, you want to be that person for your audience, because in all of our estimation and all of our experiments and our work, and this is a principle that sort of sits outside of social, uh but the channel that's working right now is social for this concept, is you want to be that trusted, credible voice in the industry, because the things that's what circumvents the brick wall. Everybody's going to ignore your pitch until they know who you are and they know why they should listen to you, right? And we all do this. We all subscribe to a newsletter that's great the first 3 times, and then we stop paying attention to it unless if it's really good. We subscribe to the weekly updates from a voice that we really trust, or follow their content religiously, and then 90 days later we go, it's no longer applicable to me, so I'm going to tune them out, and then I don't look at them for like a year and a half. That's the brick wall in action. So
So true.
our goal is to be that trusted, credible voice to our prospects, and the problem is, well, there's a lot of problems in doing this, but one of the major problems is that SDRs are not equipped by their sales organizations to do that on behalf of the sales company or on behalf of the sales organization, right? Because, and this is where everybody gets social wrong, because the leadership, and we see this time and again with our clients that we work with the sales teams that we coach, they think the solution to their problem is to hire an evangelist. They think that, well, we need a trusted, credible voice in the industry. Let's go hire an evangelist to do that on our behalf. And in our work, what we're going to talk about today is, you don't need that. You don't need the personal brand. Attention and credibility are 2 different things. There's an overlap.
Yes.
The attention is great to have, and in some ways it's like a proxy for credibility, but how many profiles on LinkedIn alone, let alone TikTok or any other social media feed, get a lot of attention and then it fizzles out? They build, and we're not going to name names, but I can think of 5 to 10 names off the top of my head that got a lot of attention over the last 120 days. Their follower count blew up, and now it's falling off because they optimized for attention, which is what we think we need to do, when in reality we need to optimize for credibility, which is what our prospects want from us.
Remember when we were looking at the research of like how a lot of our leads came in,
Uh-huh.
and it was
Mhm.
mind blowing that it was our lowest performing post that got the most DMs that converted to
Every
deals
time.
every single time. So some of those bigger posts that blew up got their attention,
Yeah, it was nice.
and they're like, "Oh, like I should pay attention to this person." But that was it. And like
Yeah.
one of the interesting things, Danielle nailed it. Once you
Mhm.
get a few people who identify you as a trusted source, the network expands quickly. And what I
Mhm.
think about this is the celebrity example is who has the celebrity's attention that they trust, that they're telling stories that they're laughing with. You shouldn't be jealous of them. You should get to know them
Right.
because they are the path of least resistance. That's a key part of social, the path of least resistance to have the conversations you want.
And I want to layer in one last thing to these macro shifts that we talked about. Younger people coming into leadership roles, people tuning out, using the brick wall and only paying attention to trusted credible voices. The last piece is how much more adept buyers are at doing research before the sale. And I think Nick, you can probably speak to this more deeply than I can. I can talk about the data at least, but buyers are so much more equipped with the amount of, because of number two, because of all of the information out in the world that we're all overwhelmed by. The actual buying decision is different as well. So I saw this post from an account executive earlier today, and he had connected with somebody on social 7 months ago and had done some like initial outreach, but it wasn't the right time. Well, now it is the right time. And do you know who that buyer reached out to? That account executive. But that was because the account executive continued to engage and nurture and build that credibility over time. So buyers are doing research on their own terms, not just by themselves, but on their own terms with their buying committees or whoever else they need approval for to purchase whatever you're offering before you even hear from them. And there's some people in the industry, like at Refine Labs, they call that dark social or the dark funnel, which are two different ways of conceptualizing some of these stages. What's important, cool sounding name, but what's important is that buyers are educating themselves, and the seller is no longer in control. The seller is no longer in control of the buying process like we were in 2004 in selling Salesforce, because it was new. Nobody had done the predictable revenue thing before. We looked to the sellers as guides to help us educate and inform about the product. Now, there's like at least 30 SEO optimized articles about all the different comparisons between tools in the industry in your category. And you bet your ass your buyers are going to be looking at those things. That's just like
But
one example of many.
that's a good another example of a macro trend or
Hmm.
even micro, depending on which way you look at it, is there's so many lookalike products.
Yes.
So right now, with so much stuff being mission critical, the buying committees keep expanding to reduce risk. There's also a lot of dependencies that come in, like, well, there might be 7 different people researching the same thing, but they link in a way that they weren't expecting, that, that they didn't connect the dots. And so this is another reason why the way buyers are researching, the way buyers are approaching us, the way we need to approach buyers and educate them has changed because it's not single source of truth.
Right.
Because my goodness, was that easier back in the day.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if the buyer came to us as sellers and said, "Oh, I've never heard about you. I want to learn more about your product." Like that just doesn't that kind of conversation just doesn't happen anymore because of the brick wall, because of the overwhelm. Because you know what they'll do instead? They'll ask the influencer, the celebrity, the peer, the person who holds the same job title at a different company, "How do you solve this problem?" And you never get to see that conversation. Unless, I mean, well, That's not actually true. Some of the time you never get to see that conversation. A lot of those conversations are happening on social.
So, Morgan, we've talked a lot about like what's going on in the environment and the economy and a lot of different things that are leading up to social being a good resource.
Yes.
How do we do that?
Great and difficult question. um Boy, have we spent some live show time doing this. So here's the essential thing I think about. Sellers need to show up
Mm.
consistently and credibly. And what I mean by those two things is, if we take the existing ways that people talk about social, and if you follow marketers on social, they're the worst. I apologize if you're here today. I am a marketer. I'm one of your kind. Did brand work for a long time. But there is this confusion when it comes to social selling that to be a really good social seller, you have to build a personal brand. And that's just bullshit. It's just not true. And the reason we know it's not true is because of our work and all of the stuff we do with sales organizations. There are sellers, SDRs, AEs, heads of business development, go down the job titles. We worked with them all that have under 2,000 followers, have no like direct connection with some big personal brand. They're not an influencer. They close so many deals off of LinkedIn because they've optimized for credibility by showing up consistently. So, showing up consistently is pretty straightforward. And if this is your first B2B Power Hour, like welcome. But if you've been here before, you know we spend a lot of time about all the different plays, which exist on our YouTube channel, just so you know. There's showing up in the comment sections. There's creating your own content. There's having conversations in the DMs. There's sending connect requests that are either blank or personalized to kickstart conversations. But the point of all of that is to do it consistently. It's just 30 minutes a day. You don't need to spend hours. You don't need to create your personal branding matrix. You don't need to publish content that wows the audience, right? You don't need to do any of that. You just need to show up consistently and you need to build credibility. And credibility is four questions, four very simple questions. And you'll forgive me. I want to bring up some notes because I want to make sure I say these questions correctly. Question number one is, can I trust you? Which is integrity. Question number two is, are you a good person? Meaning intent. Are you showing up with good intent? Number three is, can you actually solve my problem? Which is about capabilities. And number four is, are you as good as you say you are? Which are results. And the mistake that I think we make when we talk about credibility or building credibility is we spend a lot of time on number three and four. We spend so much time proving our capabilities. We spend so much time talking about our results that we forget number one and number two. We have to build trust and we have to show up with good intentions.
And where that happens is so misconstrued on social because marketing
Mhm.
says content, sales says connect and pitch.
Right.
And this is why it falls apart because neither of them are right. They need to come together and find that middle ground because that middle ground is where it's built. Yes, content will get there, but have you ever gone to a public speaker, a keynote, heard their keynote, and then walked? They're like, "Oh, that was interesting," and then never talked to them, never had any interest in talking to them again. But the
Yes.
person sitting next to you at the keynote that you had a conversation, a dialogue on the whole thing, and now are still in touch with,
Mhm.
we're human. We crave relationships and connection. That connection comes from conversations about things that are more than just superficial. That is why comments are so powerful. And it's comments and connections with our peers that add credibility, but it's also with the people who our prospects trust. Because if they see you talking to that celebrity, that influencer, that expert, and you are one of the people that they go to for advice or they openly want to talk about and debate different topics, you instantly have credibility where you're going to be, when you say something, it holds weight.
Yes. And Danielle just dropped a comment of like, give without asking for anything in return. And number one and number two, meaning integrity and intent, will grow so quickly. It's dead on. I think maybe it was Brene Brown who talked about trust as a battery or trust as a marble jar. Her kid had this like marble jar at school. And when good things happen, the teacher would add a marble. And when bad things happen, a teacher would remove a marble, and so trust works a lot like that, or a battery, right? You charge up the battery. And the problem that most sellers have, and the way most sales organizations work, is they look at the way they think phone and email should work, and then they come to social and they try the same thing. And the reality is social has a credibility challenge because of the brick wall. People will just tune you out. They'll say, I can't trust you, or that pitch comes, right? So we see these posts a lot where people are like, God, I wish people would just like pitch me up front. That's an intent problem, right? That's back to this credibility issue. Their mental spam filter says, you're going to pitch me because of the way that you've approached them. So they think you have bad intentions. So they don't see you as credible. And then they're like, come on, man, just pitch me already, right? I don't
Small
need to go
talk in the
through,
DMs.
right? I don't need to go through all this BS. And then so that's back to this credibility challenge. Can I trust you? Do you have good intentions? And then capabilities and results. And I think the capabilities and results things are pretty straightforward. That's about what you're selling and your product and the case studies and all the rest of that. We spend so much time there. We forget that literally, as Nick said, we're people. We're supposed to be social on social. We're supposed to just like
It's a secret.
it's a secret, right? We're supposed to just show up and have good conversations with folks.
I want to pull up Zach's comment because this is good.
Mm,
How do you feel about asking prospects to share their knowledge because you want to learn about their industry? Genuine outreach for growth. You are
not to sell.
genuine, but genuinely too many sellers have ruined it for you.
Yeah.
So you genuinely need to go back to the comments. So this is the hardest part that we notice from all of our failed experiments is going direct as a last resort. Go back. So unless you have a shared interest that somebody can introduce you or refer you, or you've been engaging in real life, or you've been engaging in the comments and you have some type of dialogue with them, don't go direct.
Yeah.
Find the people in their organization that are active on whatever platform you are prioritizing. If it's YouTube, YouTube. If it's LinkedIn, LinkedIn. If it's TikTok, TikTok. Find those people that are actively using it and go from
Slack
there. Morgan,
communities.
well,
Yeah.
you have a brilliant way of scoring this, and
Yeah.
it's moved like this. Pay attention, guys. Like you've heard us say this before, but Morgan figured this out, and it moves so fast. And Zach, you'll be able to use this to break
Hmm.
into accounts really fast to have those higher level conversations, and also build that value hypothesis, build that business case as you're going by going and taking this route.
So yeah, I mean, obviously the problem, Zach, is that not everybody you want to talk to is active, right? So the direct approach seems reasonable. They don't post content, they don't comment on stuff, they're not liking things. You can't find out a lot. So you're like, but you have this genuine desire to outreach for growth. So the way that we like to tier profiles is that there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1s are your creators, the people creating original content in your industry or at a specific account you're trying to break into. This works really well for strategic accounts or enterprise sales because you can tier out a large division and see what your entry points are.
And
And
tee them
then,
up.
yeah,
Tier
and
out,
tee them up.
tee up.
I like that. So, tier 1 are the original creators. Creators love people in the comments. That's your entry point in to have that engaging conversation. Tier 2s are your engagers, people who like, who comment, who reshare content. And those, what you want to look for is what, as Nick said earlier in this show, how can I find something in common? Run that race to commonality. Find a shared interest, find something that they would find useful, comment on a post that they reshared, reply to a comment that they offered, look at a post that they recently liked, and then follow up with a DM saying, look, hey, I saw you like this post, and jump into a conversation, right? Um, Tier 3s are your lurkers. And your lurkers are people who don't like, who don't comment. They have a profile. Oftentimes, they may even have LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Premium. And but they don't use it. It seems beyond any kind of account research. Lurkers are best nurtured through content, but this is where you can get a little more.
I
Uh,
I couldn't believe this. I want to go and state this for like the record because yes, this is
oh yeah,
recorded both on the LinkedIn event and YouTube.
hmm
I didn't believe this until I saw it unfold in front
in
of
real
me
time.
in real time.
So lurkers are best nurtured through content, which is why content is important. But now it's not about personal branding; it's about nurturing the lurkers. So it's like a one to many nurture sequence, and all you're trying to do is educate those lurkers about something that would be interesting to them. Develop those insights. That's why those posts that don't get a lot of engagement can generate a lot of inbound leads. And if you wanted to get technically or socially savvy about this, then you can create intent data structures using Sales Navigator, right? Or profile views to track who's engaging with you or expressing some low level of intent and kickstart a conversation off of that. And this is great for lots of things. You can use that tiering for your prospecting. Obviously, that's like the core use case. But you can also use it for account research or industry research.
Oh
Because
yeah.
all you're trying to do is you're trying to find the people who've expressed or who are engaging on the platform and have a good conversation with them, and then use that to develop your insights, your understanding, and so on about what's going on in the industry. The uh, is down with how I would interact with tier ones of like, if you want to learn about their industry, go engage with their content first. Exactly. People who are creating original content, your tier one people, are not only great sources of knowledge about the industry, also the most active on the platform. And they're like 1% of profiles. So there's not that many of them by
I
the
think
numbers.
I think you got to hit on this harder. Is that the one prioritizing the 1%? Then level two, the engagers is only 9%. It kind of depends on when
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
launches and the platform.
Yeah.
That's 10% to access the full 100%. That gives you a 10x on effort.
And like
10x.
if we were doing something a little more prospecting focused, and we've done this before, you can go look on the YouTube archive. I hope I'm not cutting out. I apologize. I'm in a cabin in the woods. Who knows? But the the goal is that you can use that tiering to route into an account properly. That's how you would use it for prospecting. And you can use tier one and tier two accounts to earn that referral or earn that introduction elsewhere inside the company. So now, if you think back to Macro Shift 2, the brick wall, becoming a trusted, credible voice, you're engaging with those tier one, tier twos, those creators and engagers in order to earn a credible referral or a credible introduction to the actual buyer at the company or the stakeholder who maybe isn't as active on social. This channel, that opportunity was not really available to us 5 years ago.
Or yeah, like 2019 is when it started to
Yeah.
unfold, and it wasn't really until 2020 folding into 2021 that that became a thing. Like a
Yes.
strong play that works consistently.
Right. So, aside from tiering out your accounts, the other thing that I think about, and we've sort of hinted at this, and I want to drive this home about being consistent and about building your credibility, it does not have to be, well, it should not be about you. And not to be like too harsh about this, but like it should be about your buyers. You should go out and engage with your buyers, not to pitch them. Like this is back to those good intent sort of things of credibility. You genuinely want to engage with them. Danielle had this comment earlier about generosity, generously showing up, generously going to people and saying, "Look, hey, I loved that content," and then nothing else. You're just doing little value deposits. You are charging up that battery. That's what's important, is building that trust and showing up with good intent.
Want to go on? Caroline just asked a great
Sure.
question. You want to dive into that, Morgan?
Yeah. So uh, we don't have too much time today. This could be an hour for itself. But Caroline asked, you mentioned Sales Navigator intent. Can you expand on that? Absolutely. So um, let me just pull up my notes really quick on Sales Nav because it can be super intense.
Well, the simplest win, just to go and be very clear, for
Yes.
intent is when you have an account list built out and somebody in that account list looks at your profile, it pings you. So when you go to the LinkedIn Sales Nav homepage and scroll down, it'll be right on the top. If you sort by leads, it'll be
Hmm.
right on the top. An unsaved lead at one of your accounts you're following looked at your profile. That's
Yes.
context.
So within Sales Navigator's settings, you can turn on or off all of these as options, and I'm just going to read out a good chunk of them. Uh, a lead started a position at the same company. A lead shared an update. A lead was mentioned in the news. A lead viewed your profile. A lead started a position at a new company. Has engaged with posts from your company. Accepted your connection request. That's just lead stuff. Then you could go to an account. So senior hires at saved accounts. Leaders are researching your company. An account just announced who funding or is preparing to grow. Someone at an account viewed
Oh
your
my God.
profile. Um, we got some nice YouTube spam today. An account shared an update. An account was mentioned in the news. An account has accelerated growth, so on and so forth. So, what you're doing is you're creating saved lead lists, and saved account lists inside Sales Navigator, and then turning on or off which of those triggers inside Sales Navigator settings to notify you when those happen, when those triggers or that intent data occurs. And that way you can create sort of like an intent data system that automatically works with your prospecting motion. So that is the sort of high level use of Sales Navigator. Um, anyways,
Perfect example of stupidity from somebody trying to sell something completely irrelevant, going right to a solution.
for our future audio listeners, we got some nice YouTube spam. So,
Not even in the DMs, in the comments too, apparently.
yeah.
Oh yeah, don't pitch in the comments.
Yeah. Can we talk about some etiquette for engagement, Nick?
We should.
Go for it.
The thing about the quickest way to turn somebody off of wanting to go and talk to you is to make it all about you.
Hmm.
And so like talking about all those triggers that Morgan just went through is their context. People crave context. It's like when somebody asks you a question and you're like, why are you asking me this? It gives context. So when you give context to a conversation in comments, it holds more meaning. It allows them to give more thorough of a response. It also sets you up for a really good conversation. But think about it, when somebody you're talking about something vaguely remote, like related to their solution, and you hit them with like, hey, you need to go and buy, Sales Navigator to go and build out your lists and go and do this and this and this. You're like, cool, I know what that is. I didn't ask anything about it. Completely not relevant. People don't like to talk about your solutions. People want to talk about their wins. They want to go and talk about their life. They want to talk about the sports they love, their passions, all the things that make them who they are. They also like to gossip and complain about where they work, the workflow, how it's not working. Those are the types of things that bring people together. But if you want to go and like split people off and create, and kill any type of workflow on social, pitch in the comments and watch everybody block and hate you. It is a
And
very effective way of
and
like
here's the
cutting through the
thing.
crowd.
Every once in a while, you'll get a win from it. If you do this, and we see this a lot, if you pitch in the comments, if you do that direct method with somebody who's posting content, every once in a while you'll probably get a win. But the risk, as Nick articulated, and Danielle commented that when people pitch her in her comments, she usually deletes their comment and disconnects from them. That's a very common risk of
Yeah,
doing
if not,
something like
block
that.
them and mark them down as spam. LinkedIn is
Yeah.
cracking down on it too.
And what's important is like the upside of keeping the good etiquette and building credibility, it takes longer. So we have to exercise patience in order to plant those seeds and watch them grow. And yeah, we can feel desperate sometimes and we just want this next meeting. We just want this deal to close. And we can think that it is going to work. But it's
Mhm.
like a bad poker player that they they do a strategy and it works every so often, but if you actually totaled it up, they lose more often than they win. That's exactly what happens here. So
And
I have
it burns bridges faster than you'll ever be able to build them, because the thing that people forget is that 10x works backwards against you as
yes,
well. If
yes,
you're commenting on influencers, if you're commenting on major engagers and you're putting out garbage, it'll augment the garbage and kill your credibility in the market faster than you're ever going to be able to rebuild it. And that is a
yep,
hard game. It's a lot harder to come back than it is to start fresh on the right side. Something to consider,
exactly.
right? Because like you're going to get those lurkers that you're going to become top of feed, and they're going to see that and they're going to block you. And now you have
Yes.
permanently removed any access to that target account. So what do you do now? Good luck getting them on the phone.
Yep. So that's the other thing, which I think we should transition to, Nick, is it's not just about social. Social is a credibility builder, right? And can we can use it to generate inbound leads and to use it for prospecting and generate outbound deals effectively. And that's not exactly the focus of today. So we have a long and illustrious archive that can help you do that. But today I want to talk about layering because this is the leverage point people don't talk about enough,
Mm,
which is okay, I'm prospecting into an account right now and I'm engaging with their VP because their VP is an engager, not posting any original content, but she shows up in the comments and comments on stuff every once in a while, and so I'm paying attention to her activity. And every so often over the last 30 days, I've been engaging with her comments. I've been replying to them. I'm like, wow, this is such a good insight. Have you thought about this? Kickstarting that conversation originally. Then that eventually, we obey the rule of three here, three round trip conversations. So her comment, my comment, her comment, my comment, her comment, my comment, three round trips. And then eventually sent a connection request, continue the conversation in the DMs for a little bit, but it didn't go anywhere. And, I was okay, cool. Then a couple weeks later, she drops another really good comment. I respond to this. I'm like, hell yes, this is awesome. Okay. So sometimes when people get all wrapped up in the idea of social, they think, oh, I only have to source this deal from social. That's not true. This VP now knows my name and face, right? So if I found her email, which isn't all that hard to do anymore, it's obviously not on LinkedIn like what Nick was saying earlier, where C-suites would just like leave their phones and emails. But we all have sales intelligence tools. Grab her email, send her an email with something with a different resource, or as a trigger based on something she commented on or a question that she had. I could write an email and say, "Hey, I just saw you had commented on this person's post and you had asked this, and I saw this resource the other day. Would this help?" But as an email instead of a DM. Now I have a new channel that's opened up with this person. Doesn't mean I'm going to immediately book the meeting on that, right? But I can continue to layer and stack the ways that I'm reaching out because now I'm no longer an anonymous seller. I'm not just some name in the inbox. That person sees Morgan Smith and goes, I think I know Morgan from LinkedIn. And that helps build that credibility on other channels as well.
one of the things too is like one of the strongest forms of trust is an introduction or a referral. So whose posts were you originally did that person? So a lot of VPs will comment on their own people. They support
Yeah.
their troops. So if you're going through their posts and you see the VP keeps commenting, it's a good place to find them. But that person is the OG person you need to get to know, because what can
Hmm.
happen too is talking about it's a conduit up. If you can support them to accomplish their goal, they're going to introduce you to that VP. Hey, you've seen like I've been talking to the VP. I just want to give him a quick call. I know this is important to you. Do you want to go and see if they would have a chat with me? Well, because you've had so many conversations, those round trips, when they somebody either does an email intro, a LinkedIn DM, or a cold call, it's not cold, it's warm because
Mhm.
there's the recognition of either what you do or who you are that opens that conversation so you can start asking the questions you need to know that actually help.
It's sort of like that you met somebody at a conference symptom where it's like you don't know them that well, but if they called you up, you'd be like, "Oh, I remember. Yeah, what's up?" sort of thing. That's essentially what this is doing. And the longer that you spend building that credibility up front, the more likely it is that initial conversation on another channel is going to be more and more rewarding because you've done that hard work up front. Like all selling requires credibility, right? Those four questions again. Oftentimes, if you're an SDR or you're a full cycle AE, if you send that cold email or that cold call, it can book a meeting pretty quickly if it's done well. But now, from that first meeting to the point that that deal closes, you still got to do all that stuff. You still have to build trust. They still got to know you're good people. You still have to demonstrate your capabilities. You still have to demonstrate your results. They have to know that this is the right thing for them. And now on social, all you're doing is you're upfronting some of that work. You're pushing it up, right? Which is you're doing all of that work before you're booking the first meeting. And that is a huge leverage point because you can actually do that at scale on social. You can connect and comment and engage with an audience at scale, which is not uh, as easy to do or as simple to do on email, especially.
I want to I want to take a step back. Morgan, when you go to a networking event, why are you there?
Well, I
Probably to meet people, right?
yeah, I was about to say I'd prefer
Or
probably not to be there, but yes, to
when
meet
you're on
people.
social, you're there to meet people, to be social. But what has social become for a lot of people? It's their source of information. So industry related information, so they're staying up to date what's going on in the industry, either that they're in or that they're selling into. It's also becoming a lot of their professional development. They're not there to buy your services. This is the biggest thing that got missed with LinkedIn. LinkedIn was originally to get hired,
Yeah.
and then it was a professional networking event.
Hmm.
Professionals don't go to, unless they're going to a crappy coaching, I'm not going to name names, that they prey on people that go and do all the work. But
Yeah.
what this is about is genuine connection with people, not pitch slapping. If you're pitch slapping, it's why you're failing on LinkedIn because you missed the whole point. And you're also selling yourself short because you fell to the lie that sales is always one to one.
Hmm.
This is the first time without using automation that we can do one to many. Literally, the whole world can be tackled with LinkedIn. And it's you can use it to go and get people that think like you, that see the world like you, have the same point of view, some like mental model that you can attract them through comments and content, and that's your open door. So think about it this way. So say I'm working a really large account. I know it's going to take me time to break into. There's a lot that I want to say that I can't get in front of them easily because I haven't earned the right.
Hmm.
But what I can do is get in their comments and start connecting with them so that I'm opening up the conduit of information. Because what LinkedIn does is when I start DMing them, it says, hey, these people know each other, top of feed, top of mind, prioritize them. And so think of all the emails you're going to put in the sequence, remove the solutions and the garbage that nobody cares about, and focus on who are the 5 or 10 people in this account that need to know we exist because we can something changed that their workflow is not perfect or there's signs of pain. What do each of them need to specifically know before they'll ask me for a meeting or just buy? That is your
Yes.
content. So now you're just having conversations and connecting. Your content that you're putting out into the world now becomes your nurture sequence without using a sequencer.
Mhm.
And the things that take off naturally magnify. So birds of a feather flock together. So if it resonates with one VP, one executive, or somebody in that buying committee, more people of that profile are going to see it. They're going to look at your profile. They're going to go and start engaging with you. But if you're only worried about pitching in the DMs, go back on the phones and email because you missed the point.
Right. And this is also,
Leverage it for the marketing side. Leverage it for the
yes.
way that you can. It's that healthy hustle. You don't have to put in 20 hours a day connect and pitch or like automating or
Hmm.
selling yourself short by not doing the best pitch you possibly can. I get it. Industry account persona, like you, the juice has to be worth the squeeze,
Sure.
but we can run campaigns on LinkedIn as a seller.
And that's also how outbound can become inbound on social, which is a unique feature, right? Like if your outbound plays include commenting and warming up an account to build credibility, then that outbound play for that one particular account generates awareness. You have leverage inside the algorithm. Other people see that comment. And if you've been doing your connection strategies correctly, it's probably other ICP personas on the network that see that insightful, curious, useful, funny comment, and it charges the battery a little bit with them. So then your outbound to this one account can
A
become
great analogy.
inbound with all of the other accounts that see it. This is huge leverage. You don't get this on email. You don't get this on phone, right? Because that's all one to one, as Nick was saying. This is a one to many platform. And it's such a huge opportunity, especially, and I just don't want to lose this, Nick, because you almost said it, and I want to affirm this, especially because of macro shift number 2 that we started the hour with, the brick wall. People will tune you out if it's not applicable. So if you start by pitching, they're going to say not applicable, and you've just burned the bridge. There goes the credibility out the wall.
The barrier, like any with anything
Hmm.
else, the more we see something, the threshold goes up. You know, you have the best passive for the first time, and it's great, and then you have that great pass again, and it makes you sick. Well, now you're not going to want to touch it again. Like
Right.
talking from a personal experience, but but what had happened is the threshold gets moved up
Hmm.
for a meeting. What is
Hmm.
worth my time? Because people are busier than ever. So unless you're tying into what they're busy doing, Nate Israel has said this the best. Where are these people spending 70 to 80% of their time? What workflow are they in? This is where we need to get to, because if we speak to that and we're like, okay, who owns that workflow? Who gets to call in the middle of the night if it's broken? What is their responsibility in that workflow? How do they touch it? Who else is involved? If that workflow goes wrong, who does it affect? Think of that as an account strategy and thinking, where can we take this company in 6 months, a year, 2 years? Or the industry, if you're selling something really small, like what does that industry change? Where are you taking them in the future? And like an amazing way to frame this is Amazon's PR FAQ. If you're
Hmm.
putting out a press release of saying, look at what we did a year or two in the future together with this transformative deal that we put together as a team, what would have to happen? Where would that transformation need to be felt and seen to be recognized? Because that's the hardest part, is recognizing the actual benefit. Think about it. How many times have you done chores as a child or went out and did something nice for someone? It got no recognition because it wasn't on their radar. This is what happens with us in sales all the time, is we don't get the recognition we deserve because we haven't set out the KPIs for ourselves to get that recognition sometimes.
Hmm.
Social, once again, is our opportunity to give them a clearer picture with more clarity of what they're actually buying and the experience that they're going to get. Hey, we're going to go in and, if you work with a line, we're going to go and increase your top of line. Hey, if you work with a line, you're going to go and get this. Like whatever that may be.
Hmm.
And then trickle down as you're doing more meetings because you're building out that business case. But that could be content nurturing. So, as like we said, that 80% where they finally talk to us, that conversation is so much different than it used to be 5 or 10 years ago, because we're not filling in as many blanks. We're starting a lot deeper into the nitty gritty.
Yes, exactly. And that's, again, we're sort of shifting that work up front when it comes to social. And so to sort of tie this out in these last few minutes, the reason that social selling can outsell your competition if you do it right is because you're circumventing the brick wall. That's essentially what it's about. They learn through all of the little tactics, some of the tactics we talk about today, and many others that we haven't even addressed today, to to trust you and to learn that you're a trusted, credible voice. This is why a company doesn't need an evangelist, because an evangelist isn't going to solve that for them except on an individual level, right? That evangelist can earn trust and credibility, but so can your account executives, so can your SDRs, so can your directors of business development, or even your marketing people. It doesn't matter what job title they are, it's the same kind of playbook for every person. All you're trying to do is to circumvent the brick wall in order to earn trust and build credibility, because they listen to you. They're willing, that trust battery gets charged up. And this is the other thing that maybe I think sellers underestimate, Nick, because we're so used to like a low trust environment up front. Not necessarily later in the deal, but up front. When that trust battery is charged in a high trust environment, there's room for error. Something can go wrong. You can say something wrong or say something not exactly right. You can have a demo call that kind of goes well but doesn't go well, but they'll actually continue to pursue the deal. Why? Not because the demo call was like the most mind blowing thing ever, but because they trust you, that you're credible. There's more room for error. And all of that was built up front because you circumvented the brick wall and you built up whoever is doing this social selling work as a trusted, credible voice. P.S. This is also why full cycle account executives are like really well positioned for this kind of work because they handle that full spectrum, but that's for another day. So,
And there is a law of diminishing returns on social.
yes.
The people that live on social all day, every day, do not do as well as the people that are only on there a half an hour or an hour and time block. That they have a goal of being on there, that they know why they're on there. I'll also tell you too, there's some channels that are emerging. Discord and Slack. There's some
Huge.
communities. Go talk to your buyers. Go talk to the people that already bought and love you. Where are they going for their information? Where did they originally hear about you? What are those communities that they're tapping into, either above the power line or below, that they're getting that information that you could be that source?
Hmm.
I've seen people crushing on WhatsApp communities. I didn't even realize that was a thing, but apparently it is. So there's people winning there. Like I said, Slack, YouTube comments, and the threads that go into the YouTube communities because they have really strong connections. What is that streaming? Twitch. Twitch is
Yep. Twitch
another one.
communities. Hmm.
There's lots of different resources and medias that people go to learn and to be entertained. I wouldn't be surprised if TikTok becomes huge once they add more B2B functionality. But I think where people are going to struggle is they need to target. They need to figure out where
Hmm.
they need to show up and who's using it. Not something like simply like using your sales intelligence software, like even just using Sales Nav to go and build out that account, those 5 to 10 people. Google them. Figure out where they show up on a consistent basis. Go there. Figure out where they go to learn. Be there. And that is how, as a seller, we can beat the curve and not have to hustle and work smart and get the play to Pareto's law, that 80-20 rule that gets us somewhere fast.
Well, somehow we're at the end of the hour. So happy Friday, everybody. If you want a recording of this, it's either here on LinkedIn Live, it's on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. It'll be ready for, I think, on YouTube later today. And as always, thank you for joining us. Nick, want to close this out?
I will mention one thing. I heard a rumor that Morgan is almost done the LinkedIn guide. So I'll just throw that out there for everybody, that
Oh, yeah.
this crazy fool went from 6 to 8 modules up to 30 with, like, play by
It's going to
play
be good.
detail to go and help you.
It's going to
So
be good.
something to go and check out. If you're also really struggling with comments, Morgan created a free guide that's on the B2BPowerHour.com website.
Hmm.
Something to go and check out. But guys, we're coming into the end of 2022, if you can believe it or not. Halloween's only a little bit away. It is no longer acceptable to suffer in silence. I get that sales is an individual job, that we get siloed, and we really struggle and we put it on ourselves to fix it. You don't have to anymore. If you need help, if you're stressed, if you're struggling, if you just want to do better, get in the comments here. shoot either of us a DM. We have a supportive community that wants to go and help you. You don't have to buy anything, you just need to show up.
Yes.
And we're happy to point you in the right direction. And I want to let you know, have a great Friday. And it means a lot that you guys keep showing up and contribute. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Happy Friday.
Have a great weekend.